All right, everyone. Welcome to the BlkOps podcast. This is actually our first ever BlkOps podcast, doing this solo. And I'm honored to have William Branum on the show today. William is a 26-year Navy veteran. He was a Navy SEAL sniper instructor, author of 5 SEAL secrets that he's going to share with us today, the founder of Naked Warrior Recovery line, CBD product line. He's out in Hawaii joining us today. And we honestly only met once and we did a phone call together. So this is a cool opportunity for us to get to know one another. And yeah, I'm just super pumped to share his experiences with you and give a little bit of my experiences as well. This project was kind of designed to just bring value to the consumer, whoever was watching. And it's kind of perfect to have William as our first guest. So William, welcome to the show, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me here. I'm stoked to be your first guest. I either want to be, I was listening to like a Gary V. I'm not like I do a lot of Gary V listening, but he was at an event and someone was like, hey, I got a podcast. And I'm like 20 episodes in. Would you be my next guest? And he's like, no, I'll either be number 1, number 10, or number 100. So call me when you're at like 95. Absolutely. So I'm stoked to be number 1.
It's a history moment. And I actually saw that before too, that Gary V clip when he did that to that guy. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I want to kind of like give you an intro to share your 5 SEAL secrets. I read it earlier today. And it was just, the ethos of your company and how you carry yourself is so in line with what I emulate to be and what I try to lead my community with. And yeah, just kind of giving them the breakdown of what Get Naked means. And I'm excited to hear about it.
For sure. So I've actually turned this into a presentation, and I just came back from like a men's retreat. Like it's like men celebrating being men, because I think that's kind of lost in today's society. Excuse me. And I give this as a presentation to companies, and I give it to, whatever organization wants to hear it. And really what it is part of my journey as a SEAL. So when I departed the military, I had a lot of baggage, and I don't say PTSD. I don't say anything like that. I just say baggage, because we all have baggage. We all have something, this crap that we carry around. Some of it's from like, work or family or other like toxic relationships, but we have this crap that we carry around, and and it kind of weighs us down. And the other piece of it is we carry this ego around like all the time, because we feel like we've been attacked in some way, again through like from work, from the media, from politics, from toxic relationships, from whatever it is. And so one of the things that you have to do, and you kind of alluded to it, is this sort of get naked mindset that I have, kind of built and I rely on myself. Is, I had, like I said, 26 years in the SEAL teams. I got baggage. Some of it's from work, some of it's from toxic relationships, and CBD was a modality that helped kind of turn this noise down in my head, so that I could have some positive self-talk. But what is that positive self-talk that you need to have? And what I did is I reflected back on my 26 years of service and what are some lessons learned that I had. And through that, I came up with these 5 SEAL secrets. And these 5 SEAL secrets, they're not the only like secrets, air quotes, right. That we have out there that I am here to share, but they're 5 mindset secrets that I've kind of distilled from my 26 years of service, from failure, from leadership, from doing a good job. And so they, the 5 secrets is actually the word naked. It's NAKED. And because it's in the military, we like acronyms. It helps us remember stuff. So just to kind of like roll into that is like the N in naked, and oh yeah, so if you're gonna think like a Navy SEAL, and these are 5 like SEAL secrets, you have to get naked. And some of that is like take your ego off and expose yourself, and be a little bit vulnerable at times. And only when you are vulnerable can you really find that healing. So the get naked mindset is, the N stands for never quit. And I don't mean like never quit smoking or drinking or porn or drugs or any of these toxic relationships that you could possibly be in. It means never quit on yourself. Never quit on the authentic person that you are. It means never quit on always trying to improve yourself. So if you started a project, a program, or an event, if you put enough effort into wanting to start that event, start that project, that program. Maybe you're starting a business, maybe you're starting a degree, maybe you're, starting into a relationship. You take that all the way to the end. And what the end looks like is different for everyone. If we're talking about a business, maybe you're like growing it to a, $300 million business, and then you sell it. That's the end. Maybe you're in a rock band, or you want to whatever. You take that all the way to the end of the career, and grow it as much as you can. If you're in a relationship, you take that relationship all the way to the end. Sometimes that relationship ends in a divorce. There was a reason for the divorce, but don't stay in it just because you don't want to quit. And I've made that mistake. At some point, there's a stepping off. It's not going to be easy. If someone says, I'm doing this thing, and you've talked to me about some stuff where like, this is going to be hard. I've got a lot of failure along the way. And my response is good. If it's really hard, that means it's harder for other people.
Right.
And someone told me a quote that if you want to be the 1%, you got to do what the 99% will not do. Yeah. Like most people will stop after like 1 or 2 tries. You just have to keep going. And so that N stands for never quit. It, like everyone says it, but it's really hard to do. So one of the things that they taught us in SEER school, which is a POW school, you become a POW. They beat you up, they interrogate you.
I avoided that one. I was like, I'm good, man.
I did 2 different ones, and they were nice. like the second one, they really beat the crap out of me. Apparently I was non-compliant. But for sure I would have been dead if I was a POW. Basically, if you get smacked around enough, they're like, they killed you. Like every time they slap you, that's a butt stock to the head.
Oh, nice.
So I've for sure TBI. Yeah. not good for me. But on the, what they teach you in SEER school is to create small victories. So let's just say, for example, the prison guard says, don't look left. Every opportunity that you're out and about, you need to look left, or look at whatever the thing is that they tell you not to look at. And then you look right, and then you do other things where they're telling you not to do it. You create these small victories, and you're basically just non-complying with what they're telling you to do. And that can apply to things, in today's society. Another piece of that is, so during Hell Week is the most famous of all military training in the world. I can go all over the world and everyone knows what Navy SEAL Hell Week is. It's 5.5 days of absolute misery. It's you're cold and you're wet and you carry this boat on your head and it sucks.
Yeah.
It's not unattainable, but many people quit during Hell Week. So in SEAL training, you lose about 75% of the class up until Hell Week. And then whatever that group that's left over, you lose another 75% of that core group of people who made it to Hell Week. So Hell Week is very hard, 5.5 days of you don't sleep. They keep you up, you keep you moving. But one thing is constant during Hell Week is they feed you 4 times a day. So no matter how hard, how miserable, how much it sucks, all you have to do is make it to that next meal.
Right.
So, that's one of those, creating those small victories. So if you want to never quit and think like a Navy SEAL, you create these small victories and you just never quit. The A in Naked is accept failure. Failure has been the biggest teacher in my entire life. Failure has taught me lessons that no amount of money, I wouldn't trade $100 million for the lessons and the failures that I've had. And most people don't like failure, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. But and that's where people quit, is they fail and they're like, oh, okay, maybe it's just not meant to be. Like, just keep going. And so I know I can think of like very vivid failures on dives, on training missions that I did. Like, if I hadn't gotten those failures, I wouldn't have done it right in combat.
Right.
And so those were critical lessons that I had to learn. And I paid the man for those failures.
Sure.
But from those failures, I knew exactly what to do and what not to do. It didn't matter if someone told me, do it like this. I have to learn it for myself. Why do I not do it like that? And maybe I try to outsmart the guys that are teaching me. I have to learn it on my own way. And so I had to accept those failures. And, in SEAL training, it was interesting to me. Like, I showed up and I was in sort of okay shape. I wasn't in great shape. Probably in better shape now than I was when I showed
Right.
up into SEAL training. But it was interesting to me to watch these absolute amazing athletes quit during SEAL training. And it wasn't because they weren't strong enough or smart enough. I mean, you're going to, like, in the class, you're going to have failure, like multiple failures a day, especially up and through Hell Week. You're either not fast enough, you're not strong enough, you didn't swim fast enough, you didn't work as a team, you weren't loud enough in your hoo-yahs and whatever. And you know this from being a drill instructor. It's just like, it's this mental thing where you're like breaking them down mentally
24/7.
and physically also, but like you break them down mentally. And the most elite athletes that showed up ended up quitting because they couldn't stand the thought of being told that they were not good enough. It wasn't about discipline equals freedom. That's all good and well. It was about the grit and the grind. Once you're in it, like not learning those lessons that are being taught to you. Yeah, you're going to fail. That's just part of the process. And that's part of the breaking down and then building you back up. You're going to have failure. So,
and there was something about that. It's just like so true. Like the loudest in the room is the weakest in the room. We see so many motivators come into different elements of my Marine training, and you think they're the best. You think they're going to be the baddest dude, and then sure enough, they can't handle one defeat. They can't handle one loss.
Right.
I was just talking
100%.
to some friends today about this topic of just like people just can't handle it. They just can't handle defeat and struggle and loss. And you know, the ones that do, you're going to make it. But continue for sure.
Yeah. So, you know, really to be successful in anything that you do. And, you know, let me talk about like just some other failures, not even on the military side. Let's talk about Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player of all time. He's missed more than 9,000 shots in his basketball career. He's lost more than 300 games and he missed more than 30 game-winning shots. And after every game, no matter what, win or lose, the team would go and celebrate. What would Michael Jordan do? He would go back to the gym, go back to the court, and he would practice those shots that he missed. He would practice them in every scenario until he didn't miss them again. And so he accepted that failure and he got better from it. You take Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, two icons in the business world. They built billion-dollar companies. They were both fired as CEOs of companies that they had started. They were fired. They went away. They accepted that failure. They created bigger and better, came back and created, you know, Apple and Tesla and SpaceX and like what we have today.
Travel into space.
Right. You know, Thomas Edison, he learned more than 10,000 ways to not create the incandescent light bulb. More than how many times, like you do something 10 times, not 10,000 times. Sure. And he failed and failed and failed, but he learned every time he had that failure. So if you want to be successful in anything you do in life, you have to accept that failure and learn from it, use those lessons and grow and become even better. The K in Naked, in a K, is kill mediocrity. So there's a line from the Navy SEAL Creed. It says, in times of war or uncertainty, there is a special breed of warrior ready to answer our nation's call, a common man with an uncommon desire to succeed. And so that basically what that says is, you know, Navy SEALs, we're regular, ordinary dudes, but we have an uncommon desire to succeed. We have an uncommon desire to never quit and accept failure. So we're surrounded by mediocrity every day. And if you don't think so, tell me how easy it is to not get sucked into your phone, to just scroll or play that video game or whatever it is. You know, when we do that, we end up quitting on ourselves. We don't attack our goal for the day. We don't hold ourselves accountable. And those are little quits, you know, quitting on ourselves. And so how do we compete? How do we kill that mediocrity in our life? And the way we do that is we compete in kindness, we compete in giving, we compete in generosity. We compete against our ego, because our ego, I talked about ego earlier in the show, is that ego is the thing that holds us back. That ego, we hide behind it. That ego knows all your strengths, all of your weaknesses. It knows exactly what to tell you to make you quit, to make you comfortable. You want to be comfortable because, maybe I don't want to look weak in front of people. I don't want to have that failure. That's your ego. So when you learn to compete against your ego, nothing can stop you. And when you kill that mediocrity, you will improve your life and the lives of the people around you.
Absolutely.
The E
And
is expose your fears. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
just that, like, and like, kind of like you're letting your potential die, you know, like your true calling, you're not even exploring it. You're not even, just because comfort, you know, and comfort and progress to me don't align. They've never aligned in my life, but you know,
Right.
just leaving your true potential on the couch, just not cool.
Yeah. And ego gets in the way of that 100% of the time. Do that tomorrow. Do that later. Tomorrow never comes.
Right.
Ever. It's always going to be tomorrow. Do it today. Yeah, 100%. So the E is expose your fears. And this kind of ties right back into that. So, and it's not about lions and tigers and bears. It's not about spiders and snakes, although I don't like spiders and snakes that much, really. And we don't have lions and tigers and bears here in Hawaii, but we do have sharks, and I do like the ocean. But you know, it's what are those fears that live in the back of your brain, in that deep dark place that you don't want to tell anyone about? What are those fears, those thoughts that sneak out at night when you're sitting there by yourself, or you wake up in the middle of the night and you have these fears, these things that are like really bothering you? When you're in the car by yourself driving somewhere and you're having an argument with someone who's not even there, or you're like, you have all these stress and anxiety that's just swirling around in your head. And, you know, I've certainly had plenty of that. And it wasn't until I learned to kind of expose those fears and be a little bit vulnerable was I able to face those fears. So I look at fear to be kind of like a vampire. Vampires, they live in the darkness and they suck the life out of you. Fear does exactly the same thing. Fear lives in that deep, dark place in the back of your mind that you don't want to share, you don't want to tell anyone about, you don't want to like even think about with anyone. And the way that you kill those fears is you expose them. And different way, you can expose them in different ways. One way is maybe you have you had a hard time as a kid. You were bullied or whatever. You have some low self-esteem, and what you do is you go take a martial arts class. Maybe go take a jujitsu class. Maybe go to the gym. So if you take a jujitsu class, you're going to learn a skill set. You're going to learn how to defend yourself. You're going to learn a new skill set, and you're going to be forced to fight someone every single night that you go to class. And from that, exposing your fear, working with these other men and women in that class, you're going to become better. You're going to be more aware, more confident in yourself. You're going to have more, self-confidence. Maybe you have a fear of public speaking. Go take an acting class. Go take a public speaking class. What you're going to learn, because you're going to be forced to stand up in front of your class and talk and speak. And what you're going to learn is those people that are in the class with you, they want you to succeed. They do not want you to fail. And that's, one of those things where, like, I don't want to get up in front of people and talk because maybe someone will think I'm stupid, or
Right.
I messed up in what I'm going to say. Who cares? If you get in front of people and speak, they want you to succeed. If they come there to hear you speak, they want you to have a good message. They want you to speak really well. They want you, and they don't care if you mess up, because it just shows that you're human, and that helps you to connect with that audience even better. And so one other way that a coach of mine says, he says, fear does not exist on paper. And so, and this guy is a billionaire, and he does coaching, and he's a friend of mine, and he says fear does not exist on paper. And so if he's driving down the road and he has these fears, these stresses, these anxieties swirling around in his head, he'll pull over to a Starbucks, he'll go in and buy a coffee, and he'll take a pencil and a piece of paper, and he'll write down everything that is bothering him on that piece of paper. And what he has done is he has exposed that fear. What he did, he pulled it out of the back, deep dark part of his brain. It went down his arm through that pencil, and it works only with a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper. It doesn't work typing it out on your phone.
Right.
There's some magical sciencey thing that happens there.
I'm down with that.
Once it goes onto that piece of paper, the fear no longer exists. So if you read that, maybe read it out loud, maybe share it with someone. Now you're exposing that fear. Once you learn to expose the fear no longer controls you. And then from there, generally I do like a call to action. So if you have if you have found value in this, you can get really a copy of what I'm talking about, these 5 SEAL secrets, this get naked mindset. If you go to 5sealsecrets.com, the number 5, SEAL, secrets.com, 5sealsecrets.com, and maybe you could throw those in the show notes.
Yep, I will.
And so, Mark Twain once said that courage is the resistance of fear, the mastery of fear. It's not the absence of fear. We're all going to have fear, but it's not until we can grab a hold of that fear and expose it, then we control the fear, and the fear no longer controls us. And the D is really do the work, because in this world of instant gratification and hitting a button on your phone where ice cream will be delivered in like 30 minutes or less, not so much in Hawaii, but Amazon Prime and YouTube and all, like we live in a world of instant gratification, and doing the work is rarely about instant gratification. You've heard, you eat a whale one bite at a time, or Rome wasn't built in a day. Rome was built every single day until it became an empire. There wasn't one day that they didn't do the work. So doing the work it's a mindset. It's a change in your attitude. And once you embrace that change, then it becomes a part of you. So in the SEAL teams, we have a saying that says, earn your trident every day. And when I went through training, we didn't have that yet, that mantra yet. But when I graduated SEAL training, I thought, the hard work is done. It's going to be easy from here. And I couldn't have been more wrong. When I showed up at the SEAL team, I very quickly learned that no matter how good you are, how old you are, how whatever you are, you're expected to perform better today than you did yesterday. And that's why they say the only easy day was yesterday. And it took me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so again, once you accept that into your, make that a mindset, make that a part of you, you need to perform, and it doesn't matter if you don't feel like it, you just go and you do it. And so what I failed to mention in the kind of the never quit is when you have a goal, when you have something that you want to accomplish, you break that thing up into bite-sized pieces, make it to the next meal. And you just attack that one goal. It doesn't matter what it is. You attack it every single day until you have completed it. And you don't move on until you finish that one thing. Make it to the next meal. It sucks. You don't feel like doing it. That's all right. You just keep going and attack that one thing every single day. And so that's, that really is sort of the encompassing of the get naked mindset. And so really, if you want to think like a Navy SEAL, if you want to have the get naked mindset, never quit, you accept failure, you kill mediocrity, you expose your fears, and you have to do the work. And that's kind of it in a nutshell.
And it's just I just love pretty much every part of it. And I wanted to kind of just touch on each one here briefly with you and kind of go back and forth. So never quit. Our motto for BlkOps Fitness is never quit, never give up. And that's, someone was like, isn't that the same thing? And I'm like, it's a long story. But when you're a drill instructor and you're at, your second highest level, you have to do this big speech, and your whole company command is standing in the back of the room, staring at you, analyzing you. And you have this long speech to do, and you got to hit it just right and deliver it with power and force. And the recruits are all sitting in front of you, scared to death, because it's their first day. But the final line, and you just blast them with it, is that you will never quit and you will never give up. And that kind of always stuck with me. And in my entrepreneurial journey, like you said, kind of when I got out of the Marine Corps, I had a lot of struggles and trying to learn what I wanted to do. And what I learned was, when I was not reaching my potential or doing a job that wasn't utilizing my talents and all the accomplishments I had made in the military, that I wasn't even close to my true potential. And so I went about trying to, I would say dirty fingernails, like just the hard way of learning how to run a business, and just constantly dirty 7 days a week. There was no entrepreneur Starbucks laptop thing 6 years ago. It was just mop buckets and, ghetto warehouses and stuff like that, backyards, basements. But that just became my credo. Just if you never quit or never give up, you're going to make it. And I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary, The Relentless Ones. It's about Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre. And Jimmy Iovine, if you don't like hip hop, it's about NWA, but Jimmy Iovine used to do a ton of classic rock. He was Springsteen sound engineer and everything like that. And it's a really cool documentary over the course of like 6 episodes. And he's super successful, although he's lost some stuff along the way because he was such a workaholic. But he has one line and he said, the only difference between me and anyone else is I took more shit and I never gave up. And people just don't understand how simple of a concept it is. But like you said, with the SEALs, the best fighting force the country has, arguably, or just we'll go with the best fighting force. It's that simple. They're going from meal to meal when they're in, buds. They're just trying to get to that next chow because it's too much to think of the bigger picture. You got to keep plugging away at it. And so I love that. It's totally what we're all about at BlkOps, and myself, how I've carried myself. Because there's days where I don't know if I ever say I have it as the credo. So it's like, all right, I'm not going to quit, but this sucks. I mean, like,
right.
It's
really just one day at a time. It's like just make it to the next meal. Just keep going.
And that's like
one more step, one more inch, more, just one more.
And it's like embracing the suck a little bit, embracing the journey, the what is it? The powers in the process. That's such an important message for anyone who's watching this to learn. You're learning from a 26-year Navy SEAL veteran, now runs his own business. I've taken my business from a basement to a 6,000 square foot facility, but the way we got there, any of our achievements was pretty simple. Pretty simple steps to live by, and then accept failure. I think that's the big divider. I think and I think a lot of people complain about, millennials or whatever. I don't ever get into all that. I'm sure you've seen it in the military. You were the thing with the SEALs that I know of, you guys are such high level performers. I don't know if you've gotten around some of the not so high level performers in the Navy or whatever, but when I have been around some low level performers that should have been, I would say higher performers. But that's the thing, like even if you get under attack because of your achievements, it's generally really petty. And it's because someone, can't handle what you're achieving. And so they just try to take you down, and it all comes back to like, they can't even take a loss. They were not built for it. And getting your butt kicked as a SEAL every day and training, I think teaches you that, humility aspect of life. And then kill mediocrity is just kind of the whole point of this project. Is I'm trying to just, whoever's listening or watching, is to wake them up, Will, and to kind of be like, here's a great example of a leader that's going to teach you these basic steps that you can just implement right into your life. And I don't want to bang on video game for guys and stuff like that, because I'm sure they get into it, but is there more you can be doing? And if you do feel stuck, there are steps, especially with the internet now. I mean, you can do anything. So like,
and I forgot where I put this. So I gave this presentation this weekend, and something that there's a guy that was at this like men's event this weekend, and he coaches NFL football players, and during on and off season. And something that like he said after I gave the presentation that kind of resonated with him is, so in SEAL training, in Hell Week, you have 2 options. You can quit or you can keep going. If you keep going, you have one more option. You can keep going and be mediocre, or you can keep going and be awesome. And I equate that back to Hell Week, where, I happen to be in a really badass boat crew. So a boat crew is 7 guys. You carry this boat around on your head, and everything is a race. And I saw that boat crew winning races starting Sunday night when Hell Week starts into Monday. And I'm like, I want to be in that boat crew, because the boat crew I was in, like, guys are quitting. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, right, beat it. I don't need, I've been here for Buds is 6 months long. It took me 13 months to the day to graduate. So I got hurt a bunch of times. And all I want to do was just keep going and get through it. And guys are like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to run. I'm like, I'm kind of hard at that point. I'm like, go away. And other guys are like, no, don't quit. Like, keep going. Come on. Like little cheerleaders. I'm like, okay, well, I don't resonate with that anymore. Right. I did in the beginning. And all I wanted to do was get into that boat crew because they were winning everything. And eventually Monday afternoon before dinner, we lost more people. And so they lined up everyone. It's a height line. And so I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm right here. I know I'm going to be in boat crew 3. And when I got into that boat crew, I realized that there was no one in there that was exceptional. Everyone was average Joe. But they had a different mindset. All they wanted to do is, if there was a gap between the boat in front of them in any, like, we're going to chow, maybe it's a race, maybe it doesn't matter what it was, we're just like being beat. All we wanted to do was be in the front. So you have two options. You can quit or keep going. And if you keep going, you have the other option of, you can keep going and be awesome, or you can keep going and be mediocre. And I chose to be with people who wanted to be awesome. And so that is like, there's a difference, never quit, be awesome. Never quit and be awesome.
Yeah. And it's,
I got to turn that into something. I don't know what yet.
No, yeah. And it's so true. And there was a couple of things I wanted to touch on, like with your experience. I mean, 13 months of buds has to be terrible. So I don't know, congratulations on being that hardcore to last that long, especially mentally, with the injuries and stuff. I don't know much about it, but when I hear about the recycling and stuff of injuries, I'm like, that must be so tough to swallow. I can't even imagine. I've never been to it, but I mean, that's gotta be, super tough.
For me, it was more of the, kind of like broke my heart a little bit. I had to stop going forward. Like, I lost that momentum. Like, sure. I'm like, not all classes are created equal. Some classes are harder than others. I was there long enough to see the difference. And, for when I got hurt the second time, and I'm watching my class, like, go out and be wet and sandy and like miserable and come back, and they're like on the grinder, and I'm there with crutches, like waiting my fate to see if they're going to kick me out or not, because this was the second time I've been injured. Like, that was harder for me. And I'm like, dude, I cannot wait to get back in the class. And actually, my third class, when I went through Hell Week, I limped. I did not heal during that time frame. I didn't heal. I limped the whole way through Hell Week. Wow. And I actually got healed. I healed up during Hell Week, but then, because I've been gimping along for like eight weeks, I got pretty serious stress fractures on the other leg. And so after Hell Week, they rolled me again. But
did you feel from that
watching my class continue to go was like the hardest thing for me?
Heartbreaking. Did you feel like that experience kind of hardened you to be like, there's no breaking me? Kind of.
Yeah. It, like I said, like when guys were like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like the same guys saying, I don't want to quit. We're like doing a swim or running around the course with, like, as a group. And I'm like, beat it. Yeah. I don't care. Get out of my way. You're in my way right now.
Yeah. Like when you say, we had this thing, like, all leaders start nice till you get effed, till you get screwed 100 times by your fellow whatever, or your subordinates or whatever, and then you just realize that just doesn't fly. It's just unfortunately, most people are mediocre. So if there wasn't the case, you wouldn't have to be mean. But unfortunately, most people are mediocre. So you can't just be kind to them, because they're not going to do the work, and they're probably going to take advantage of you and not even realize you're taking care of them. So saw that so much in the military. And the Marine side, everything's like, big chest, loud mouths, authoritarian leadership. And I came in quiet, that's not my style. And the first 3 years I just got shit on, basically. And I remember having this like mental moment, or a moment of clarity. And I was like, I'm done just going this route. And I just decided to, and I was by myself, like, it wasn't like I was talking to anyone, it was just me. And so I just started pursuing the next steps of how to like you said, my fears. I was super nervous in front of people, and I haven't been that way my whole life. I shake and stuff. My voice cracks. Like you said, you share that. And I was like, I got to go after this. I can't live like this. And so started going into some instructor billets and started doing all the steps it would take to advance in rank. But I still remember that like moment of clarity that I had as a young man. I think I was maybe 21, around 21. And I was like, I'm going to change this reality for myself. And after that, I did, I started chasing my fears, and I started putting myself in instructor kind of like billets. And I did struggle to do that. But over the course of those years, by shaking in front of people, the more I did it, the more I exposed my fears. Like we talked about before this call, it starts of briefs like, hey, I'm going to be shaking, but I'm ready for this brief, and those steps, now I don't shake, and so you can always, once you expose those fears, I love that. And what you said, facing it, and getting it out of your head, getting it on paper too, looking at it and facing it. It was the first time I've heard someone kind of talk about that, Will, like the way you did on your video that you shared with the 5 SEAL secrets that I will link to on this. I think that video is so powerful, your testimony and what you shared on that video. And I encourage everyone that's listening to watch that, because it's definitely unique. of how deep you went into it. I believe in that. And then to hear you go that far with it, I thought that was pretty awesome and cool that you shared all that.
Thank you.
And then do the work. Like like we talked about, you just got to grind, and you just got to go hard. And if you have those other elements behind your hard work, I don't believe you can fail. I think
Right.
like you made that bigger statement, divorce or cancer. I think about, like I try to make it all make sense to any aspect of life. If you cannot quit on cancer, you can go all the way to the end and carry yourself with the bearing that whatever you're capable of doing, and I've seen death this year, and I've watched, powerful men in my life that I looked up to, my father and my father-in-law die, and their bodies break down. And I watched how they went out though. And they went out gracefully and strong as like kings. And, that was powerful. So it's like to me, these 5 elements, I mean, you can put them into any aspect of life and just go forth, and I think that's kind of probably what your mission is, to inspire people like that. And to also, I think something that's really cool that you do is showing vulnerability and showing that like this product helped you, CBD helped you. And we talked on our first call. And so how we met, for the people watching, we just passed in a hallway at Bedros Keuilian's compound. And he was like, "Hey, this is Will. He's a Navy guy." And I was like, "Oh, cool, Navy." I didn't know he was a 26-year Navy SEAL badass. Not that there's anything wrong with the regular Navy, but you were really cool. And so when I got back home, I was like, man, and you had that product. You were talking about your sleep recovery aid. And this is something I've been struggling with since I was a young teenager, not even, like 13. I've had this weird thing with sleep, and it just got worse with the Marine Corps. I mean, they tweaked the hell out of me, and the different type of, you basically just you're in trouble every day. You're wrong every day. You're getting screamed at. Every duty station sucks, blah, blah, blah. It's never ending. And if you really take your job too serious, that can affect you negatively, and it definitely did that to me. I can't pinpoint exactly what in my training, and there's different elements. But anyway, I've struggled with that. And with entrepreneurship, it was just, it was like throwing gas on a fire, because now you're a small business owner who, like you said, with leadership, the buck stops with you, and it's kind of a lonely world. And I'm sure you've experienced this. But I just really like all this, the stuff you're putting out. I think it's really great. And I've started taking the CBD Sleep Recovery, and it's really helped me kind of waking up. Like melatonin always has a weird effect on me, but there's very little melatonin in it. But I noticed that I'm waking up at like 4, kind of like alert and awake, and that hasn't been happening for a while. So usually it's like anxiety and like crazy, all these different types of things like that. But yeah, maybe if you could share with us your journey into CBD and how kind of you got about getting into that business and.
Yeah, easy. So I just kind of want to go back and address one of the things that you said. It's very similar to me, is, you said, kind of going through the Marine Corps, over time it created, some stress and some anxiety, and, you can't really pinpoint it. And what that is pain is cumulative. And, if I were to tap you in the arm right now, you would be like, whatever, dude, you're just tapping me in the arm. It's not a big deal. But over time, if I just keep doing this for like 3 or 4 days, it's going to start to get sore. And I keep doing it, it's going to have a big bruise. And then the longer I do it, the deeper the bruise is. But you can't pinpoint really, like if I stop tapping you on the arm, it's still going to hurt. And then maybe I like every now and then I tap you on the arm, or you bump into something and it hurt. And you're like, why is this hurting me so much? It's just because that pain is cumulative. And it can be, it was just a tap in the arm. It was just something that one person said. It was just something that one other person said. Like, they're not different. They're not the same. It's just like a continuous, like, kind of tap. And that pain is cumulative. And so I had the same thing, I have 7 combat deployments. I have, in total, 10 total deployments. And I got back. And so I call it baggage.
Right.
I have,
to say the least,
an ex-wife. I have an ex-wife, and I say, I generally don't say this openly, but I have more baggage from that relationship. I do actually say PTSD from that relationship than I do from 7 combat deployments. And so, I had some, So anyway, so that pain is cumulative. That was like this negative noise in my head that I couldn't turn down, and I would pretty much just drink myself to sleep every night. alcohol would kind of dull the noise and like kind of like drown it out, and then I would just like keep going until I pretty much just passed out at the end of the night. And so I had heard about CBD. I heard about, it was on a podcast before it was legal, because CBD only became legal. Now everywhere you look, there's CBD, something on a street corner or the gas station or whatever. But it became legal December 20th of 2018 after the passing of the Farm Bill, which basically made hemp has 0.3% or less THC in it. It made hemp legal in the United States, so in all 50 states. And then you saw CBD popping up all over the place. But before that, I had heard, on a podcast, the guy was talking about, everyone knows about medical marijuana, like we're looking at medical marijuana and, the benefits for THC for, some pain, some, chronic illness, cancer, things like that. But there's this other molecule in the hemp plant. It's called CBD, and it helps with stress, anxiety, chronic inflammation. It helps with epilepsy. It helps with all these other things. And he's like, this is going to be the next major molecule. And so I had heard about it. I was still on active duty. I still have a top secret clearance. I was not going to go down that road of something that was derived from the marijuana, air quotes, plant. So I retired in 2018. And in 2019, I finally tried CBD for the first time. And it was a buddy of mine gave me a bottle. I tried it, and I say that water boils at 212 degrees. I was probably living at 210 degrees. So it didn't take much for me to like hit that boiling point. Right. And so over time, I went from like, after taking CBD, I didn't notice anything right in the beginning. Sorry, but what I noticed
my son's jumping in here, bro.
It's all good.
Say hi,
it's all good.
Go to mommy.
And so what I noticed over time was I went from like 210 to 205 to 200 to 195 to 190, maybe 185. And then I ran out. And something else that I noticed was I'm 100% disabled through the VA. Migraines, aches and pains, and all sorts of other stuff, sleep issues. And what I noticed is those pains were less bad. They weren't gone. Right. They weren't stabbing me anymore. They were just like a little more dull. And then I ran out and I didn't try it again. And I noticed I started getting closer to that boiling point. And I started getting these pains were increasing again. And so I tried another brand and I had similar results. Fortunately, I was trying good quality brands. Yeah. And then I was at Bedros's Empire Business Summit, and a girl got on stage and she was looking on she was trying to figure out how to market CBD, because I can't market traditionally like Facebook ads or anything else. It's an illicit substance according to those guys, because they know everything. Sure, they get it right 100% of the time. Sarcasm, people, sarcasm.
Yeah, sarcasm alert.
And she was putting CBD into like kinesiology tape, like rock tape, like things like that.
Oh, interesting.
And so after the event, like I'm very interested in CBD at this point. I want to like learn more. I want to like work for a CBD company. And so I like, when that Q&A session was over, I like tracked her down and I'm like, hey, you're the CBD girl, right? She's like, yeah, weirdo. Can you back off? Right. And I'm like, yeah, hey, I'm interested in the company. I'm interested in CBD. I want to be more, more involved. Really, I want to work for you is really kind of what I was saying. Sure. And she was like, so do you want to do A to B, B to B, B to C? And I'm like, I want to do CBD. I don't know what you're talking about. Right. Listen. And she was like, well, why don't you just start your own company? And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And she was like, you're a Navy SEAL. Go figure it out. And I was like, oh, may I please have my man card back, sure. ma'am? So I had some more conversation with her. Kind of about the industry, like the different kinds of CBD that are out there, because there's three major categories of CBD. One or two is better than the third. And so I started looking into the industry, and what I found is the industry is incredibly dirty. It's still dirty today. It's getting cleaned up, but because there's excuse me, no regulation or anything like that. I'm not all down with like government regulation, but because there's no regulation, it's still pretty wild westy, and people are making all sorts of crazy claims, and the FDA is getting more involved. And what they've done is they've gone out and have done hundreds of spot checks, probably in the thousands at this point, of different companies, from like gas stations to smoke shops to online to whatever. And they've done tests of those products. And what they found is over 70% of the products either didn't have CBD in them, they had high levels of THC, like above the 0.3% or less, to be legal as hemp, to be CBD. They've had heavy metals, mercury, arsenic, lead, things like that in the product, because hemp is a bioaccumulator, which means it pulls all the good stuff out of the soil and it pulls all the bad stuff out of the soil. So they're using, it's such a powerful bioaccumulator, they're using hemp at Chernobyl to clean the radiation out of the soil. So you probably don't want any Chernobyl CBD.
No, you don't want that Chernobyl strand.
So I was like, dude, the industry is terrible.
Yeah.
So what I did is I wanted to have the highest quality product available in the market. And so what I did is I went out and I found suppliers who were supplying CBD, and I partnered with them. And what differentiates our brand from even the biggest brands that you see of CBD is that they will test the oil in a third-party independent lab when they extract it from the plant. And then they turn it into whatever they're going to turn into, a tincture, a gummy, a topical. They don't test it again on the backside of that. We test it in the beginning to make sure that it doesn't have, like, it has like what it has. It doesn't have any toxins or molds or heavy metals or anything like that. Then we run it through the process, the manufacturing process of like turn it into a tincture that you put under your tongue, a soft gel, a gummy, a topical, energy drink. And then we test the final product so that you know exactly what you're going to get from that final product. So, there could be some sort of contamination that happens during the manufacturing process. And so what we do is we put a QR code on every single product that we produce. And then there's a lot number at the bottom. So you can like scan the lot, scan the QR code and go and like look at that lot number and see exactly what's in that product. Very few companies do that. Like I see people will ask me like, what about this company? And I'll go to their website and they may have one screenshot of a PDF that's from the certificate of authenticity, the COA, or a certificate of acceptance, and it won't even be the products that they're selling. Right. Like they did like one lab testing once upon a time, and it's not even like any of the products they're selling. And I'm like,
yeah.
Why don't you go with a trusted brand?
That sounds like steroid testing for professional athletes and fitness athletes.
Right. Once upon a time. Yeah. So we're completely upfront. We're completely transparent about, the quality and what you're actually putting in your body. Because if you're putting something in your body to be a medicine, I don't want to call it a medicine, but for a healing effects, you don't want to put a bunch of poisons in right behind it. Absolutely. Or at the same time.
And I didn't know that about your company. I trusted you, of course, because I was new to CBD when I started, and the sleep recovery was something that I just struggled with for so long. And I've tried everything that I think is legal. And maybe
that is one of my favorite products for sure.
Yeah. The sleep recovery.
I take 2 a night.
Yeah. Oh, we can do 2? I've only been doing 1.
Yeah.
You might be, maybe a boss move for me.
For me, it's a little pricey. So it's best to figure out like what's best for you.
Sure. Yeah.
But for me, the way it helps me is like I was kind of talking about it earlier, or maybe I was talking to someone else earlier, is, at night, I do stupid stuff. Like maybe I'm working, right, or maybe I just like get on YouTube and I'm like looking at like different videos, like whatever. And I get tired, but if I push through that tired, I can't go back to sleep. So now maybe I'm like, oh, maybe I need to like have a few drinks and like be an idiot and like get hammered. And then eventually, yeah. So when I take the sleep, the sleep recovery, I hit that get tired point and I can never pull out of it. Like I stay tired. And then eventually I'm like, take your stupid dumb ass to bed.
Yeah.
Sorry to swear. But
this is
I go to bed
podcast.
and I get good sleep, and I'm ready to attack the day. Like if I was I do the stupid side of it, then I'm like getting up and I'm like groggy and I'm like, oh, my head hurts.
Right.
So yeah. So for me, it's one of my favorite products for sure for me.
Yeah. The gummies. So my wife likes the gummies. She takes them during the day, and I've kind of just stuck with the sleep recovery. I've tried a couple gummies. Do you have
and that's kind of the thing, is like everyone is different.
Yeah.
Like some people can take the 10 milligram gummy, they're more sensitive, and it helps reduce stress, anxiety, helps them relax, helps them, whatever. I will take the gummies sometimes also, but I actually give them to my daughter a lot because she's very ADHD, and sometimes she's kind of emotional, and it helps kind of regulate that a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that for, a year, but not always.
And I might try the tincture. I might try the tincture too, because the gummy doesn't have a noticeable effect on me that I've noticed. I don't really use it for anything specific. I would try like, I'm a little stressed out or something, and I was like, maybe I'll try one of them.
Right.
But I think the tincture will actually be a better fit.
I usually use the tincture as like, I get one of those triggers that like set me off, and I'll use I'm still mad, but I'm less mad, and I can like actually focus on what the issue is versus like being overly emotional.
And I think it's super cool, because you're going to, what you just taught us, about what's out there in the industry is number one, because the people I do talk to about it, they'll be like, I tried it, it didn't work for me. But there's a lot of older athletes that I know struggle with recovery. And that's why I'm bringing it into the gym. And so this podcast was number one, I want to support what you're doing. And the more I learn about you, the cooler it gets. So as two veterans in the business world to support one another. And I don't like bringing outside products or brands into our gym, just from what I've learned over the years. But I think that this is something that could work for some athletes, and some of them it probably won't work for. But I definitely think it's worth trying, because there's not really much out there that you can take that really helps you with recovery that I've found. Because our type of fitness is pretty high intensity because it just works so well. We do the best we can to like kind of go up, down, kind of even it out a little bit. But honestly, we push them hard. And so they are sore, and they need to be, it'll be great if especially like I said, some of my older athletes, but I think all ages could benefit from it, that they try this, and it actually is something new that helps them.
And you said something a little bit ago. You're like, I took it a couple times. I didn't get anything out of it. If you like remember my story, I took it for a month before I even like realized that like you don't like feel anything. But you know what? How do you know that like, vitamin C
how stoned do I
and
get?
protein powder and like your other how do you feel those when you take them?
Like
you don't
vitamin
feel
D, I never feel anything.
You just like just assume that it works.
Right.
But with CBD, some people, and again, everyone is different. Some people take a little and have good benefits. Some people take more.
Yep.
And so there's all kinds. There's I would just say stick with it for at least 30 days.
Right.
Like if you invested in the product, just take it the whole time, take it every day, and then like assess like how do you feel in the beginning and how do you feel like at the end.
And that's what I'm excited to get it into our community and give them that like full on test of it and see how it benefits them, and then kind of having that back and forth with them, because we always want our athletes to be recovering. We want them to have any advantage they can to stay fit as they get older. And I always preach that, because we have a lot of wear and tear on our bodies. And when you get older, you start to realize you don't get away with all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like once it's that wear and tear, and I'm just approaching 40, you're at 48. So I'm getting into the next phase that you're in. And, I only did 8 years in the Marine Corps. So it's not like what you went through. It's a lot more wear and tear at 26. But anyway, so I'm excited to introduce this product line. And I think we want to do a video series. I think it'd be cool, Will, to have you on and we chat about some things, because I really enjoy talking with you. And I think it's a great little, partnership to a degree. How is, just to like do a checkup with you, how is business going? Like, where are you at kind of
we are growing. And one of the things that I like about the industry, I don't really like it, but I like the challenge of it. Number one, the Navy did not teach me how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a businessman, how to like anything like that.
Right.
But I do have lessons learned. I learned how to try to think about attacking a problem unconventionally. Mm-hmm. Conventional, wisdom is like marketing and whatever is, running ads on social media or whatever. I can't. They won't allow it. Like I didn't even have Facebook until I had this company. And like, people are like, oh, you need to run Facebook ads. And so I tried, and then they're like, oh, CBD illicit product, like deleted like 3 accounts before I like realized really what was going on. I'm like, what's happening? They would still take my money. Don't you worry about that. So I have to be a little unconventional in how I market.
Yep.
So, one of the things that I do is I get on podcasts, and I've been on about 85, almost 90 podcasts since March of this year, when I made the commitment to do that. So that's one way of marketing. Others is getting in front of companies. That was also part of coming up, really writing down what these 5 SEAL secrets, sort of developing this get naked mindset, and sharing that with people. And for me, CBD was a modality that helped me get out of that negative self-talk, and then changing my mindset and using these actual lessons, and not being not being a little bitch,
Right.
and kind of taking charge of my own life, not feeling sorry for myself, or being mediocre. And so not exposing my fears. And once I was able to do that, I could be it was really a game changer for me. And so kind of the video that I talked about in the that you talked about, actually, that I did, I when I give sort of the presentation, I tell people to don't try to apply this to every aspect of your life. Pick one area in your life that you are severely struggling with, that you really want to improve over anything else, and focus these 5 SEAL secrets on that one area in your life. And as you master that one area in your life, go to the next area that you're struggling in, and the next area. And so and I in the kind of emails that you'll receive after you get the 5 SEAL secrets, I talk about exposing my fears as one of the that impacted me the most. And now I'm really focusing, I've actually transitioned from that to, because I've kind of got to the point of mastering those fears, is killing the mediocrity. I can be just as mediocre as anyone else, but it's compete in this, set those goals and attack those goals. And now I've actually transitioned from exposing my fears to killing my mediocrity.
Yeah.
And so I'm continuing to evolve and continuing to move. But business it's a challenge. Every month I'm oh, I need
Sure.
this threshold that I want to meet in sales. Right. And so I'm oh, let's get the thing and done. And it's work. It's a challenge. I enjoy the challenge. But it is a little stressful.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's why it's so important for me to try to get some exposure for it, especially with the, an adapt and overcome mindset. You get into this business game, and then you're not able to do what most businesses are able to do, and use this free marketing platforms that, we get to use. And so that's a huge obstacle, but again, you overcome it based on what your experiences. And I think the mediocrity side, and I think it's so cool what you just said, it's what I really want people to understand is badass Navy SEAL can just be as average as anybody when he gets away from his true purpose, when he gets away from his calling. And I mean, it's not easy to push yourself, and it's not easy to constantly try to challenge your weaknesses and your fears. But stepping outside of the comfort zone for me has been the whole journey, and it's when I don't, I'm mediocre. And when I do, I'm pushing myself to that future self that I know is inside of me. And I can go either way, as a veteran who struggles with a lot of different little things, and I can definitely go either way. And so it's doing this project and having you on is the catalyst for me. This is the first show, and I want to do things that take me to that next self, that next journey. And I believe that's just helping people. And we do have an awesome tool that is podcast, that is media to do this. And I don't know, you wouldn't necessarily think that we would align just crossing a hallway in California randomly, but that's the energy. I always talk about energy begets energy. I'm not very good with grammar, but I think begets is the right word I'm trying to use.
It works. It totally works for me.
For us, right? Those small victories, those small steps, all that's just building up that taking you up that mountain, carrying yourself through Hell Week or 13 months of it through limping, the story Lone Survivor, when he was wounded and he just dragged himself to one rock. And I think people don't understand that that's what it takes. And then they kind of get confused and they get stuck, and the people around them are not inspiring them. They're not talking about this kind of stuff. And so all you get is, like you said, the negative loop for most people's put in their head, or it's on a constant replay, like many of us go through. Yep. It's so important to get around people that have that same energy as you. It's so difficult to find that, depending on where you live, depending on where you're at. And so projects like this are so important for me, because it gets someone like you, a chance to tell your experiences to my community. And it's not just me talking. I've always tried to be pro-military, and we do a big Murph every year. I do a big speech on the military all around, but the Murph workouts, really big in the CrossFit space and the functional fitness space. So it's just a way of kind of aligning all our community to this country, the sacrifice of veterans, and our core values that we have to remind ourselves of. And so I'm happy to be partnered up with you, man. And I really wish you the best with this. And I'm going to be here, to chat with you whenever and help you out. We can always share some business tips. I don't know if you worked with Bedros. Did you work with him, or kind of just?
Yeah, we've done some work. Excuse me, some work together. I was on his podcast. I don't know, a little over a year ago. The Empire Business podcast, and then also I was out in California to be on their new podcast, and I do a little coaching with Bedros off to the side as well.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, and he has. I mean, when I talked with him, we sat down. We did a year of business mentorship with him. And for those that don't know who Bedros is, he's a very successful business mentor. He's been doing it for years. He also was the CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp, but he was a really cool dude. And we had the opportunity to work with him and jump into that big, that was a big step for us to do that. But going out to see him was an option of not doing it. Like, I could easily have not gone out there, because I really was struggling with anxiety, and traveling was causing it, like equilibrium type of things, like tunnels and bridges. And it was just getting worse and worse. And so then I'm like, all right, now I'm flying across the country with a mask around my face. And that's not how you want to be when you're like having high anxiety. And it was a challenge to get through those plane rides. And I did. And then I meet you in the hallway. And so I'm just like, energy, contact Will. And then I contacted you, and we had a phone call. I'm like, oh, he's great. He's a cool guy. I don't know what it means. I don't know what the next step is, but like, we're moving
just one step at a time.
One step at a time. Yep. And, I have so many people that I try to help with business, and it's just so negative, and they're just like, why? What's the return? And I'm like, if you expect a return on every action you do, I don't know where I'm going. I hope that I'm going wherever, but
instant gratification, like, again, Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was built like every single day.
Yep. And then these things just happen. And then opportunities, what luck favors hard workers, or opportunities fall in your lap, and everyone's like, oh, you're lucky. I'm like, well, no, there was 15 steps that put me on the path for that train to pick me up, and that's a huge thing I've learned. So anyway, I'm excited to continue this partnership with you, Will. I wish you awesome success. Can you share where everyone can find you on social media and on the web?
So on social media, I mostly do I do everything across all platforms, but you can find me the easiest on Instagram at Naked Warrior Recovery, all one word. You can also, my website is nw-recovery.com, or you can type in nakedwarriorrecovery.com. I changed it to nw-recovery because maybe people don't want to write naked into their search engine. I don't know.
Could get
and
messy.
then for those 5 SEAL secrets, it is the number 5 SEAL, SEAL secrets.com, 5sealsecrets.com.
Yep. And so this is my first run at this, and my next mission is to post-produce this and chop it up as best I can. And so that's going to be my next journey into a brand new world. Hopefully it works out. But we're going to get everything linked up and make sure that everyone who sees it has your links as well. That's a lot of pressure,
Awesome.
Right at the end. You got to do your website perfectly and your Instagram, like, go spell it right.
You don't have to do it perfectly. You just throw
it out there.
You always change and evolve, and sometimes the 80% rule is all you need.
That's true. All right, well, thank you so much for your time, man. It was great.
Thank you, sir. It was awesome being here.
Have a great day.
All right.